Okay, so I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that we have a treasure trove of esoteric knowledge on this guy for today's video. Sorry if that means the runtime is a bit short, but I couldn't not make a video on Chemosh. A lot of people like to say that Baal is the true rival to the Israelite Yahweh, and while particular attention was drawn to try and relegate the iconography of the storm god to Israel's cool new monolatrous deity, who basically showed up out of nowhere in Exodus, I would argue based on the scant lore that we have, that Chemosh is actually a better candidate for that title. And that's mainly because Chemosh actually has an extra-biblical, readily available textual attestation. The Mesha stele is a stone tablet recording the tale of the Moabite king Mesha and his triumph over the Jews, wherein Chemosh is actually the main character. The tale begins by explaining that the Moabites had been forced into subjugation by the Israeli king Omri because the previous Moabite king Chemosh, despite being named after the deity, did something to piss off the big cow man upstairs. What that isn't exactly elaborated on, but King Mesha, Chemoshat's son, makes a point to rectify that. And how does he do this? Human sacrifice. And no, this time it's actually not biblical propaganda. The Mesha stele proudly admits to taking all the peoples, livestock, and the leaders of multiple important Israelite villages and sacrificing them at the altar of Chemosh. Over 7,000 in one case. However, there is one slight objection raised. 2 Kings chapter 3 offers an alternate account of what happened. In this chapter, Mesha is still under the subjugation of Israel and King Omri, but also later his son King Ahab, only later rebelling against his son King Joram. The timeline floats a little bit, it really doesn't matter. Mesha stops paying tribute to Israel, Joram gets pissed, and then contracts his homie King Jehoshaphat, that is really fun to say, up in Judah, and the two ride out to Moab through the desert of Edom. Unsurprisingly, there is no water in said desert, so the kings ask the prophet Elisha, not to be confused with Elijah, what they should do.
And he said, "This is what the Lord says. I will fill this valley with pools of water. For this is what the Lord says. You will see neither wind nor rain, yet this valley will be filled with water, and you, your cattle, and your other animals will drink. This is an easy thing in the eyes of the Lord. He will also deliver Moab into your hands."
I often note I'm going to circle back. I hate to disappoint conservative Twitter, but I am going to circle back.
The next morning, lo and behold, there's water, and plenty of it. So the unified Jewish army can continue marching on Moab. And they were kicking their asses until
they destroyed the towns, and each man threw a stone on every good field until it was covered. They stopped up all the springs and cut down every good tree. Only Kir Hareseth was left with its stones in place, but men armed with slings surrounded it and attacked it. When the king of Moab saw that the battle had gone against him, he took with him 700 swordsmen to break through to the king of Edom, but they failed. Then he took his firstborn son, who was to succeed him as king, and offered him as a sacrifice on the city wall. The fury against Israel was great. They withdrew and returned to their own land.
And that's it for the biblical account of this incident. Obviously, there are a lot of substantial differences here, with really only two commonalities between them. First, they both acknowledge that Moab was under the heel of Israel, and then there was a rebellion. And second, much more interestingly, Chemosh's favor trumped Yahweh's. Now, I have seen some apologists claim that, no, Israel and Judah didn't lose because Chemosh is stronger than Yahweh, they just lost Yahweh's favor. To which I would answer, stop retroactively writing your own holy book. If that were the case, you can be damn sure the authors would have included that detail. They never shied away from discrediting neighboring gods before. Look at what Elijah did to the prophets of Baal. Elijah proper this time, not Elisha. Let's also remember that yesterday, in the timeline of events outlined by the Bible, Elisha explicitly said, "He will also deliver Moab into your hands." Something Yahweh was doing right up until Mesha sacrificed his son. Then all of a sudden, he's able to conveniently drive the armies back to Israel and Judah. So either Yahweh changes his mind like a college girl changes fuck buddies, or Mesha was correct when he said that Chemosh delivered the Moabites from the hands of Israel. Let's also appreciate that the chapter ends rather abruptly here, and doesn't mention how Moab went on to launch a campaign which saw the deaths of thousands. A detail which would probably be pretty embarrassing for the writers of 2 Kings to keep in after a prophet of God literally just told them that they were about to win. Then again, Mesha fails to mention killing his own son in his account, so I guess we're both shoving skeletons into our closets. Point is, ladies and gentlemen of the internet, the cringy Reddit atheists are actually correct in this instance. There was indeed a god who defeated Yahweh. Thank you all so very much for watching today's video, ladies and gentlemen. If you enjoyed, smack that like button like it's the 50s and your wife didn't have dinner ready for you when you got home from work. Subscribe like you do to all of the evil streaming services which drain your wallet. In this case, though, it's free. Hype the video like Sony just announced Sly Cooper 5, and I will see all of you in the next video. But until then, have a God's blessed day and a good yard.